Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to analyze an incredible scene that came from the teaser of the pilot of Breaking Bad. Now, before we even start this, I just want to say something. I remember watching this scene on television for the very first time, and I had no thoughts about watching this show. I really didn't. Somebody turned it on and I was thinking, oh, I don't want to watch a show about some drug dealer. And I watched this episode and this scene, and at the end of this scene, I went, wow. About 3 months later, I got the script. I read the very first scene, just the teaser. And I knew that Vince Gilligan was an incredible writer, right? And this is the reason I'm telling you that is because this is one of the things that caused me to say, hey, we need to focus on scenes. Now, let me back up. When I was first learning, I met with a screenwriting teacher and I said, I was doing corporate training at the time and I had lots of money. And I said, I would like to master writing scenes. And I was wondering if I could hire you to coach me to do that. What I wanted her to do was to coach me all the way through exactly what we're about to do and what this whole program is about. And she said to me, listen, it's not about the scenes, it's about, and then she named off a whole bunch of other things, big things, structure, characters, stuff like that. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Those are important. But I keep thinking there are scenes that movies are remembered for, that people talk about from that point on. And I would like to know how to write those. And she goes, well, if you get the character and the structure right, the rest will play out for you. Now, let me tell you, after spending many, many years working with writers, interacting with producers, agents, managers, what I found out was that's absolutely not true. She is not correct. And she's right about the other things. The other things are important. Absolutely. You've got to master each one of these things. But scenes is where you express, and scenes are the things that people usually remember. They're specific ones that make a huge difference. So let's go through and analyze this one so that you can see how that works. Now, here's what we're going to do today. First, we're going to go through this analysis of Breaking Bad. And as we do that, I'm going to be focused on some of the things that make great scenes great. We are actually going to analyze this from about, I think we're going to use about 15 different skills so that you get a chance to see some of the things that they did. And then at that point, then we'll talk about the upcoming class, Scene Mastery, which goes times 20 what we did today. So, yeah, if you haven't had a chance to take that one, that may be something you may want to jump into. Now, let's talk about how you experience this scene. So you may remember seeing it. You may have seen it recently, right? By the way, that's not me. That's Walter as Underwear Man. But when you experience this scene, this opening scene to Breaking Bad, the teaser of the pilot, did you consider it to be just okay? Right? Did you think it was a good scene? Did you think it was an amazing scene? Do you have any idea what the skills were that were used as they were writing it? And I'm asking you right now because, and this is kind of the next thing, I'm going to ask you to compare how you felt about the scene and your experience of it, especially having to do with the skills, to where we're going to be at the end of this meeting here. First time I looked at it, I was kind of blown away by it. But then I thought, okay, wow, he did like 3 or 4 things really well. It's natural to go through and watch an amazing scene and experience the emotion of it and experience, the kind of like whatever it was trying to accomplish, right? The shock, the surprise, the intrigue, whatever it was. And many times not even recognize the actual skills that were used in writing it because we're not looking at it from that perspective at that moment. But we're about to look at it from that perspective now. So the Breaking Bad teaser, I just want to do a review for anybody who hasn't seen it or doesn't remember it. It starts with, you're looking out at a desert, right? These pants are flying through the air, which right off the bat has you go, what? And then an RV crashes through the pants. It's driving or running from something. We don't know what. And then we cut to the inside and we see that the driver has a gas mask on. Oh my God, what's this about? And he's driving in his underwear. Now, I'm going to guess the first time you saw that, you had no idea what that meant, right? Because those two going together don't usually make sense, right? Something weird's happening here. And then it turns out there's a passenger who's slumped over unconscious, also wearing a gas mask. And now we go to the back and we see dead bodies sloshing around in the back. If you caught it, there was some money and chemicals, that were on the floor, some brown, really disgusting looking stuff. Then we hear the sirens behind us. So we know now at least an idea of what he's running from. The RV is out of control. It crashes into a sandbank. We're wondering at that point, are they going to get caught? But we don't really know anything about these people. Underwear man pops out of the RV. He then dives back in, gets a camera and a gun, which is interesting. And he stands outside and desperately makes this last video, right? He starts by saying, to all law enforcement, this is not a confession of guilt. And then he speaks to his family, right? Which is very interesting at that moment. And the final image is Walter, still in his underwear, but he's got his shirt on now, with a gun. He steps to the road, points the gun towards the sirens, ready to stand down these cops. Now, that's a lot to happen in a scene, but the way it happened is, in my opinion, what made this scene amazing. So let's start taking a look at that. First, what did this scene accomplish? I want to be really clear on that. First, it was an amazing set of reveals. And if you're trying to learn reveals, this is one place I'd look. There are about 5 different kinds of reveals, but this is one place I would look because they're doing an amazing job of introducing new information, new conflict, new suspense through reveals. So the writer really knew what he was doing. I know he had a team, but still. It intrigued us on multiple levels. It introduced Walter in desperation, running for his life. And by the way, think about the difference. Let's say we had started this show, Breaking Bad, with the next scene. The next scene is Walter gets out of bed, comes in, sits down with his wife and son, and they have kind of this banter / argument about the bacon and whether or not he's going to eat the bacon and whether the kid's going to eat the bacon. And then they go to school. And Walter introduces us basically to his normal life as a chemistry teacher. If this show would have started that way, I'm going to guess most people would have tuned out somewhere very quickly. I don't think I would have watched it, but it didn't. So one last thing here. The other thing this scene accomplished was it introduced Vince Gilligan, the writer, as an incredible writer. right? I was sitting there when I read this, first when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, wow, that was amazing. When I read it, I was even more blown away by it. And my first thought was anybody in town would hire this guy. Really, anybody in town after reading that would hire him. Anybody in town would want to work with him. It's like just that scene sells who he is as a writer. And that's why this stuff is so important, because many times that's all you have. All you have for a producer who has never read your stuff, who has no idea who you are, really all you have is that first scene. If that first scene blows them away, they're going to keep reading. If that first scene comes on light and low and small and doesn't deliver much at all, right? If you're holding back on that first scene, that's a critical mistake. So I just wanted to say that just as a safety tip for you guys. All right, let's take a look at it. And we're going to analyze it really from 3 levels. We're going to look at how does it show up on these different levels. So I think you'll really enjoy this. First, scene arc. What's the scene arc of the scene, right? It starts with an RV on the run, and it ends with Walter preparing to do suicide by cop. So things have changed. It's not a scene that starts and ends in the exact same way. It's not a snapshot. There's action happening here. And by the way, the action is some pretty serious stuff. The situation. Well, Walter is desperately running from authorities, and he's got 2 dead bodies in the back of the car, or the back of the RV. That's an intense situation, right? And it's done, of course, in a great way. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The conflict. Walter believes this is the end of his life. That shows up in multiple ways. First, the way he's running, the level of desperation. It shows up in his last will and testament video, right? And it shows up in him stepping to the street and pointing the gun at them, basically choosing to end his life. So that's the major conflict that's happening. Moving the story forward. Well, this is something that should happen with every scene, by the way, but we're in the very first scene, right? So how does it move the story forward? Well, first it introduces us to Walter as a criminal on the run. Because of that, and because of how intriguing the scene is, we've got to find out about this guy, right? We got to find out who he is and what got him there. Because again, we're talking some pretty wild stuff here. Entertainment value. It's entertaining on multiple levels. First, it's an intriguing set of reveals, right? It's got suspense. We feel empathy for the character when he does his confession scene. And we worry that Walter's going to die, right? So we are entertained. We're emotionally engaged on a bunch of different levels. And then setups and payoffs. So let me give you a few of these. And this scene has probably 10. But here, first thing we see, pants are flying through the air. This is a setup for They Belong to Underwear Man, right? And you may not have consciously got that when you watched it the first time. It's just like, wow, these pants are falling through the air. And then suddenly we have this guy in here in his underwear. But it's like, that's the payoff in that situation. And then there's actually another payoff beyond that, but we'll talk about that later. Setup, why is he running? And then we find out at least one of the payoffs, there's dead bodies in the back, right? Setup, the sirens are coming toward him. And let me get out of the way here. And the payoff, Walter then steps into the road to do suicide by cop. Now, I'm not saying these are the only payoffs for any of these. And I'm not saying these are the only setups. I think there's about 10 setups in here that set up all kinds of things, that some of those setups pay off when we get to the 4th act of the pilot. And at that point, you get to see what happens at the end of this scene. right? But it's important to know you're designing in setups and payoffs because that keeps the audience engaged on another level. So part of our job all the way through this is to create engagement. So second level is what makes it engaging. So I'd say urgency is one of those things, right? Walter's running from the authorities, could be caught any second. The sirens are closing in as he makes the video to his wife, right? This is part of what engages us. We're worried about him. Then there's surprise, right? The RV drives through the dead pants. Now, you may not afterwards think that's a surprise, but when it first happened, I remember seeing these pants going through the air, and the way they're doing it, it's kind of this hypnotic thing. And then bam, this RV goes through it. It was surprising. Then we cut to the inside, underwear man in a gas mask. That's also surprising. Cut to the back, dead bodies in the back. That's surprising, right? Then there's some twist. And there's really two twists in here that I see. One of them is, the guy jumps out, and instead of trying to save his life or save his buddy's life or cover it up or do these other things, he immediately makes a video to his wife. That was a twist, right? Up until that point, the way we saw this was going one way. Here is a criminal on the run with dead bodies. And now it twists, it changes. We're now going a different direction. He's trying to take care of his wife and his family. He's trying to make sure that they understand what's happened here, right? Twist number two is Walter steps in the road to do suicide by cop. Up until that point, we hadn't actually seen him as suicidal. It looked like he's just going to somehow, get away. That's what he's trying to do, or deal with it in some way. I don't know. Or maybe just turn himself in, but he chose a different path there. Both of those twists made this scene more interesting and engaging, and it gave us more depth for that character. And then there was rising tension, right? Every reveal made the scene more tense. Imagine this. If this would have started with, we see this RV, drives through these pants or whatever, it's a little out of control. And then the guy gets it back into control and then drives off onto the highway and everything's fine, right? It would have just been a moment. But every single reveal took us further, right? He's running. Then the gas mask tells us something's going on inside that van that is deadly. Then the dead bodies in the back. It's like, oh my God, okay, we've got serious crimes been committed here. The sirens make it more intense. The video confessions means he thinks he's going to die. That makes it more intense. And the suicide by cop attempt makes it more intense. So now level 3. Making it insightful. And again, if you're looking at this, each one of these levels is taking us into more depth. So irony is the first part. And excuse my voice here. Sorry about that. Irony in here, I'll get out of the way. Walter did these crimes to help his family. And we find that out when he's talking on the video and he tells his son, there's some things that you'll come to learn about me in the next few days. And I want you to know that no matter how it may look, I only had you in my heart. So there's that irony. Now, you may or may not believe it at that point, right? But if it's true, that's some serious irony. There's actually a couple of other pieces, but I'll leave those out right now. Then there's subtext. He says, to all law enforcement agencies, this is not an admission of guilt. I'd say in his situation, doing that video with that RV right next to him, dead bodies in the back, I'd say he's admitting something here, right? So there's actually something going on under this surface. And yes, he's trying to talk to his family and everything else, but why is this the first thing he says, right? He wants them, he just in case, he wants people to know he's not guilty but he is. And that's the subtext. Then there's a dilemma in just a moment here. Then there's the dilemma. And the dilemma in this case is, does he turn himself in and live for his family, or does he just end it, sparing himself the pain? Now, and he's thinking about that. He's going through that. When he finally steps up there, he has made his decision. This is the end for him. So, and then reveals. I listed the real reveals in the very beginning. There were 7 reveals that started this scene. Every one of them was unique. Not one of them had dialogue connected to it, right? We were getting these pieces of information one step at a time as they were demanded, with the final reveal being that he's going to do suicide by cop. And then this question: did he betray his wife, the trust of his wife and children, right? Adding the betrayal in makes it more emotional, and it means it's going to affect some other people. So every one of these things has made a difference, right? Every one of these things has taken us to a different level of understanding, and has us see things and experience emotionally and internally in multiple ways the experience of this particular character. Now, question now, what makes this scene great? First, my guess is, now that you've seen all of that, and that wasn't all, by the way, there are actually some other things going on in this scene that also make it great. But now that you've seen that, let's just talk about it for a second. I think that just this question, what makes a scene great? And we're talking a great scene. What makes a great scene great? I think this is a mystery that we have to solve. And when I sat down with that original screenwriting teacher, I was really committed to solving this mystery at that point. It just didn't turn out that was the time. That was one of those scenes that I wish would have gone differently. But now it will. And that's what this whole thing is about. Great scenes, in my opinion, are not just written by writers who can write. They're written by insightful writers. There's something beneath that. You notice I just gave you 3 different levels on which that scene is operating. There are actually a couple more, but a lot of it comes from who you are. So the key here is to first analyze the best writing, which is what I'm always trying to do. And then second, have breakthroughs. And this is a part that I think is, for most people, they haven't spent a lot of time thinking to themselves, how do I watch this scene and have a breakthrough? How do I write this scene and have a breakthrough? Now, I'll tell you why in just a moment, and you'll see. But the job is to write from those breakthroughs. When you discover something that is incredibly deep about a scene, that's what you want to write from. Right? Even if people experience mainly the surface level stuff, they're going to also experience what's beneath the surface. And there are multiple ways to put things beneath the surface. But if you're not having the breakthroughs, a lot of times you don't see them. I see lots and lots of scripts come into contest where almost everything is written on the surface. And they have no subtext, they have no intrigue, they have nothing beneath the surface, they have no deeper meaning. And part of it is because they just didn't find it in the beginning. Now, doesn't mean anything bad. That's an early draft. Now they could go back and discover what they needed to. But from a quality of writing perspective, let me just point to a couple of things and you'll see what I'm talking about. Because first time I started talking about this whole breakthrough thing, I was in front of an audience and I had like 6 people come up afterwards and say, I don't even know what you were talking about. And it's like, okay, from a beginner, like if you're thinking for beginner writing, it's just what comes to you, right? It's like, I've had a lot of people who say, well, the way I write is I just write, right? I just sit down and I just write, and whatever comes to me is what comes to me. And that's great for an early draft. That absolutely works for an early draft. For the most part, that has you be on the surface level. Now, sometimes what comes to you is beneath the surface. I got it. But I'm talking about, where are you 80 to 90% of the time? For a good writer or somebody who is writing at a good level, you're discovering some depth and you're building that in. But I would say great writing comes from breakthroughs, right? You are looking beneath the surface. You are understanding things that people don't understand. You have had the breakthroughs when you were writing and searching. And because of that, you built those breakthroughs into that script. Now, breakthroughs to me, these are those aha moments that let you into a new world of writing, right? That you suddenly see things in a completely different way and you go, oh my God, now I know what this scene is about, right? Or, oh my God, now I know how to write this scene. Because that kind of stuff makes a huge difference in the quality of your writing. And I'm serious. I'm going to say most of the scripts that don't win contests are up here at the beginner and the good level. Some are at the good level. Almost none of them are at what I would call the breakthrough level. And this is something that you can master pretty fast. So here's my question for you. What would happen if you truly mastered this kind of thinking? Like if you look back at the scene that we just went through, I gave you about 15 different ways to look at it, right? Or 15 different skill sets on 3 different levels. What if you did that 20 times, but not just from 3 perspectives, but from 20 perspectives, right? What if you could write at that level? And what if you could also master this thing about writing from breakthroughs? This, again, I'm telling you, once you understand writing from breakthroughs, you will look at it separates amateurs from pros. And it's why most times when people like those people came up to me at that one event and they said, I don't even know what you were talking about. It was like, yeah, they had never had a thought about how do you create and write from breakthroughs. And that, again, that one thing could change everything for a person. So this is, I want to walk you through a program that's coming up that will give you the power to write the kind of scenes that Vince Gilligan wrote here. And I'm serious about this. I looked at this and I went, I have read so many of these scenes that are just incredible. What if our writers wrote at that level pretty much all the time? So the question here is, what if you doubled the quality of your scene writing or tripled it, right? If you did that, every single scene would captivate the reader, right? Every scene would confirm that you're a professional, and anyone who read it would be blown away. That's what this whole thing is about. So this is a program, it's a 30-day long program. The objective is for you to come out as a stunning scene writer. And I'll just kind of walk you through a couple of things about it. I'm not going to give you the list here, but I'll just to be clear, this program is designed to cause breakthroughs in the quality of your scene writing. It's designed to teach you how to discover the breakthroughs so you write through them. In this class, you're going to analyze great scenes every day, and this is going to be you looking for them. I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to tell you how to create breakthroughs, how to discover that. I haven't walked through how to do that here. I've just talked about it. But we'll give you a model for how you find those breakthroughs. And then you will analyze these great scenes every day. You'll be looking for those breakthroughs. You will work with the scenes from 20 different perspectives. What we did today was we looked at this scene from 3 perspectives and a bunch of skills, right? So what happens if you had 20? This will make you somebody who can write at a level that is, is really truly respected in this industry and admired. We'll also give you the 4 types of scenes. There are 4 specific types of scenes. And knowing those first allows you to instantly be able to categorize something and go, okay, this could best be told through this type. And then let me take a look at which of these 20 perspectives could do it, right? And then from there, it's just all about, okay, let's write it and see if we can discover a breakthrough. And that's the other job in this program. Your purpose coming into this program is to have regular insights and breakthroughs. And I'm going to give you exactly how to do both of these. You've never seen a program like this. You've never gone through anything like this. This is something, I'm an expert at designing classes that produce certain results. And this one, we have now tested it, done it 15 times. We've had people come out and say if they just look back at their previous script, they see 30 or more scenes that they could have used this on that would double or triple the quality. It makes a huge, huge difference. Now, let me give you a special here. The class begins, and we'll go here. The class begins on March 20th. This special is for the first 20 writers. It starts March 20th, and that's on Monday through Friday. You'll be doing that every day. You'll spend about 45 minutes to an hour every day going through and elevating your ability to write scenes and to create scenes. The normal price on this program is $199. For the first 20 writers, you can get in at $99. That saves you $100. I'm going to tell you where it goes. Once we hit 20, then the system bumps up to $129. And then once we hit 20 on that, then it bumps up again. And then finally, it bumps up to the full price, $199. So the reason I'm telling you that is because a lot of times on these, we'll hit 20 on the first day. So if this is something that you want to do and you really, it's like, wow, what would happen if I could really write at this level in my scenes? If you're wanting to do that, jump in right now. Just go to bit.ly, just put this in your browser, bit.ly/scene order. And all you do is put that in your browser where you normally put a web address, click return, fill out the order form, and you're in. The class starts March 20th. And on March 20th, from that point on, you'll be doing it 5 days a week. Every day you will learn something new about writing scenes. This isn't a basic how to write a scene. This is you already know how to write a scene. Now let's take you to a level of greatness. And you can do it. You will love this class, I promise you. The people who have been through it have said it made a significant difference for them in their writing. We have had people now who have won contests because of this. We have had people who have written scripts. We had one lady who wrote a script. There was a producer that she had met in her network, and she kept asking him to read something, and he refused. She went back to him after doing this class, and she said, if you'll just write, or if you'll just read just the first 5 pages, I promise I will never bother you again. And he says, okay, send them over. So she sent over the first 5 pages. He called her up 5 minutes later and he said, oh my God, that scene was incredible. Send me the script. And he went on to option that screenplay. And it was because she wrote an incredible scene that came from this process. So if that's something you want to be living through, if you want to have that experience, if you want to be great at writing scenes and having people blown away by them, come join us. I promise you, you're going to love what you learn. Again, all you got to do is click bit.ly, bit.ly, or put this in your browser where you put a web address, bit.ly/scene order. So I hope you join us for this. This class is so fun. It's so amazing. You're going to absolutely love it. With that, this is Hal Krosman saying, hey, thanks for being with me today. And I wish you the absolute best on your writing. Bye-bye, everyone.